We'll hit record here and start into it. What is up, party people? It's Dan, your basement guitar superstar. Today, I have the privilege of bringing you another episode of Creator Spotlight, and I am with a wonderful folk singer-songwriter from the UK that I just discovered. We're in a Facebook group together for the same brand guitars, and her music is amazing, so I wanted to have her on. So let me introduce to you Carrie Martin. So,
Hi,
Carrie,
Dan.
thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for the invite.
So, talk to me about Entity. That's your most recent album. What inspired that song, Carrie? Because I absolutely love it. And so, after you're done talking, I'm going to tell you what kind of how. Anyway, go ahead.
Entity it's got a lot of meanings, really. Entity is a song about things around you, things that you want, things that you've lost, the people that you love that you've lost. It's something that you feel is always around you. That's what Entity is.
Okay. And the reason I love that song so much is like that was the first song of yours I heard, and like when I closed my eyes and listened to that song, first of all, I love your voice. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
And I noticed on your YouTube videos when you're playing live, you sound the exact same that you do on recording, which is awesome.
That helps.
But when I closed my eyes and listened to that song, one of the things about it that was so moving and so powerful for me is I felt like I was on this journey through, like walking through the forest or something, and like I had this Celtic enchantress singing to me. That's kind of how I felt listening to that song. So absolutely love it. That record came out in 2020, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's the title track to the album.
Okay, awesome. So I will post a link to where people can get that. Obviously 2020 has been a little goofy, especially for those of you over in the UK. Were you guys kind of blindsided by this whole thing? Or were you gigging up until the pandemic hit?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean the last major thing that I did before it all kicked off was I was in LA with Vintage Guitars at NAMM, and we were over in LA when the news from Wuhan actually broke. And I thought then this was going to be serious, but I didn't think it would be as long as this, you know. So I got back. I managed to fit in a couple of gigs, one with my mentor, Gordon Giltrap, MBE, absolutely fantastic acoustic guitarist always. All the same, he's a vintage Endorsey, and this is his signature guitar.
Oh, nice.
So I managed to play alongside him at Selby, place in East Yorkshire, and that was pretty much the last. We played alongside another guy called Adam Parrish, and that was pretty much the last gig that I did before everything locked down. Yeah, it was a shock. I lost my tour in Canada. I did a 3-week tour in Ontario and Quebec. That would have been happening in June, and of course I thought that would still go ahead, and then it just got worse and worse, and all the festivals got cancelled, and so pretty much everything. I managed a very small social distance album launch, but it's just not the same, is it? It's not what I had planned. No.
Right. It looks like on your YouTube you did play a show in Canada. Was that one that was supposed to be part of that tour, or was that from prior?
I've been out to Canada twice, and this would have been my third time, and it's sort of something that I've built up over a long period of time. I know Elliot Randall from Vintage through being an Endorsey. Elliot's lovely. He's played on my track Purple Heart, and he introduced me to a guy called Rob Taylor, who was over in Canada. They'd been working on a music site together, and Rob had invited me over to do a bit of touring in Ontario, and I was saying to Elliot, should I go? I don't even know who this man is. And Elliot was like, yeah, Rob's a cool guy, get yourself over there. And I went over for the first time for a full month, and I did 2 weeks of music and 2 weeks of holiday, and my husband joined me out there the second week. But the second time I went, I sort of met a lot of friends through going the first time, and it sort of escalated into moving over to Quebec. Met a lovely lady called Enid Goodman, who's like a Joni Mitchell tribute over there, and I stayed with Enid, and I played at the Black Sheep in Wakefield, which is quite a notorious place over there. And so I sort of built it up. So I'd gone from just being in the Ontario sort of area to playing in Toronto and Barrie. And then I sort of, the next time I went over, I played in Guelph, Toronto, Quebec, Wakefield, all around the area. And I'd sort of built on that again. So this time when I was going out, I was going to play in Ottawa, and just sort of widening out. I had a lot of house concerts. So it's something that's taken me 2-3 years to build up. I'm disappointed really that it got cancelled, because I've been working up to this, and I had a lot of work planned in Canada, and of course I missed the people that I was going out to see, and so it's a double whammy really. Not only have I lost the work, I've lost the tour, I've missed out on seeing the people that I've sort of managed to gain friendships over there, and that was disappointing too.
Yeah. Now, have you done any touring in the U.S. at all? Sounds like you've been there for NAMM, but
no, only for NAMM. Yeah, and I wasn't really. I was just demoing for Vintage at NAMM, but no, I've not actually physically worked in the US yet. I'd love to, but it's not something I've got around to yet. But yeah, it's something I've got on my bucket list.
Yeah, I think you do well over here. I really do.
Yeah, I've got a friend, one of the singer-songwriter Edwina here. She's done the US before and done Nashville, and she tells me it's amazing. So it is something I'd like to do. Obviously, at the minute, none of us are going anywhere else.
Right. Well, and the reason I bring that up, Carrie, is it sounds like, and not to get political or anything, but it sounds like the European Union is hosing musicians from the UK pretty hard with that whole visa thing now. So that tour in Europe may be out of the cards for you guys for a long time.
Yeah, quite easily. I mean, I think most musicians at the minute are feeling quite downtrodden. We've had the thing that we love ripped away from us, and we've had our living taken away from us. I guess the next step, and we always knew it was gonna be a problem, is going to be getting across to Europe. And I think the Musicians Union have been trying their best to get us passports over there, musicians' passports. But I think a deal was done, but of course the UK government turned it down, so we're all feeling a little bit bitter about that. So
right.
I'm just hoping that sorts itself out, because for musicians not to be able to travel, Dan, that's just it's not a good thing at all. Right.
So talk to me, how did you get hooked up with Vintage in the first place? Was it through your mentor there, or did
Yes, it was. Yes, okay. It was. Yeah. I met Gordon by accident. I'd given up guitar for a long time to have my family, and the guitar had been in the loft a long while, and Gordon was playing nearby, and Gordon's an amazing guitarist, folks. If you check him out, Gordon Giltrap MB, just an acoustic legend, and played with Brian May out of Queen and all sorts of amazing people. And he was playing locally, and I got tickets, and the support act dropped out, and I got asked if I would help out. I just like to help people, so I just went along and did it, but I was absolutely terrified. I'd not played for such a long time, Dan, and the guitar had been in the loft, and I sat in the side room really petrified, not knowing whether I could do it or not. And Gordon walked in, and he hung his shirt up on the hook and just looked at me, and I stopped playing. I was like, am I in your dressing room? And he was like, yeah, but don't stop playing, that's wonderful. And it was just sort of like struck up a friendship immediately. And he said, stick around, I need to talk to you. And he came back from doing an interview and said, I was playing Time After Time, a Cyndi Lauper track, and he said, we need to gig this tonight. And I said, oh yeah, that'd be great. And then when he'd gone, I thought, what am I saying? I must be completely mad. This is a guitar legend. He's just notorious for being one of the best acoustic guitarists in the country, certainly. And there I was saying I was going to duet with him that night, and I've not had the guitar at the loft in like 20 years, Right. So I was nervous, but we kept in touch for a short while, and then I just sent him a little EP that I'd done, You can see it on the wall behind me with the moon on it, just in the corner there. And it's just a little bit of a mess about that. And but he said, "Oh, I didn't realize you were a writer." And I said, "I didn't. You never asked, so I didn't tell you." And basically, he took a lot of interest then from the moment that he knew I was sort of creative and I was writing. And then I went into doing my next album, and he suggested that he approached Vintage for me and suggested that I started playing vintage guitars. I was playing an Ovation at the time. It was one that I'd had for many, many years as a child, and I moved on to vintage, and they liked what I did, so they made me an endorsee, and I've got quite a lot of vintage guitars now. This is one of my favorites. It's a little travel guitar.
Oh,
it's
nice.
Real cutie. Yeah, it's a real cutie. I've got that. I've got it sort of tuned up quite high. It's got a bit of a mandolin sound to it, but I've got to admit that is my absolute. I love that little guitar. I've written quite a few tracks on that. Sacred River of Entity was written on that, and Heartbeat and High on a Hill was written for the Seductive
nice.
Sky album. Yeah. So
how many vintage guitars do you own then?
Oh gosh, do I have to admit to this?
You know, I own 5, so.
Let me see. I've got a 12-string GG that Mr. Giltrap himself gave me for my birthday. It used to belong to him, so I've got that one. I've got 4 of the Deluxe, the 2000 Deluxe. I've got 1 JG 3000. That was the one that was brought out in memory of Gordon's son, Jamie. I've got 3 vintage Viators and another little travel guitar as well. And I've got the basic 2000 mahogany. That was the first mahogany they brought out in this sort of shape. It's like, I don't know if you can see that at home, folks. It's like quite a nipped in waist.
Oh, yeah.
They're nice guitars. They're lovely plugged in. They've got Fishman pickups in them, rare earth mic blends, but they're nice acoustically, but they're really lovely when they're plugged in. So the original mahogany that I got, I don't really need it, but I won't part with it because Elliot Randall played it in the showroom.
Oh, nice.
The guys at Vintage said Elliot was playing this, and it was the demo in there, and he was the last person to play it, and then it was going into graded stock, so I had to buy that. I won't ever part with it because Elliot played it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you own a ton of vintage guitars then. That's amazing. So it sounds like, based on your website, you started playing when you were 4, right?
Yeah, that's right. My dad first taught me.
Okay.
Yeah, my brother was 7 years older than me, so my dad was trying to teach my brother, and he would go off to school, and I was about 4 years of age, and I would be on my tiptoes trying to pull this guitar off the wall. It was just a little, like a nylon string thing, but I was getting tunes out of it without even being taught. My mum had to then sort of turn around and say to my dad, "I think you're teaching the wrong child." And it wasn't, I guess, sort of trendy then for girls. You know, my dad wanted his son to play, but there it was, this little girl was like bobbing up and down and wanting to play. So my dad first taught me, because he was around Clubland for many years. As he never wrote any material himself, but he was a guitar vocalist, and he basically taught me the first few chords that I knew, and then I started to learn at a school guitar club, I guess, in my lunch hour, the guitar. And he was a French teacher, actually, just do it on his spare time, and he sort of picked up very quickly. He took me to one side and he said, you know, you're progressing so much quickly, you know, it's quicker than the other children. You've got a gift for it. I think you should get more lessons, get your mum and dad to. And I said, well, my dad has taught me as much as he can teach me, really. And from then on, I went to a private teacher, but I got to be a teenager then, and I wanted to be out and about doing what teenage girls do, you know, chasing boys. So I wasn't really interested in going to music lessons. And I guess after a while, I went around the clubs a little bit with my guitar. It wasn't really trendy at that point to do that. I guess Eva Cassidy made that quite a popular thing to do. But at the time, it was like, put the guitar in the loft and front a rock band, which is what I did. Broke my dad's heart completely. So I did that for a while, and then I stopped. I got married, I had children, and that's when the music stopped. And then it was just that chance meeting, I guess, with God, and that brought everything back. I honestly had to say, Dan, I'd not realised just how much I missed music until that moment. And then once I got that guitar in my hands again, I was like, my God, it was like I had a limb missing and I'd not realised. So it was meant to be, I think, that chance meeting. I honestly think if I hadn't have stood in for that support act that night, I probably wouldn't even be doing this. I would just still be playing in my kitchen on the child's guitar that was in the corner, you know. My son had started to play, so I was just plinking about on that while they were at school. But no, I think Gordon will never take credit for finding me, for discovering me, I guess. But I know that without him, I wouldn't have taken this any further. And he then became my mentor. So I'm extremely lucky to be mentored by the best acoustic guitarist. I mean, he's just amazing. And there's never a moment goes by where I don't pinch myself because I'm so lucky.
Oh, for sure. Now, when you got back into playing, how long did it take you to build back that muscle memory?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think the muscle memory started to come back quite quickly. I went to a local guitar tutor because obviously Gordon lives a little bit further away from me, and he sort of polished up my guitar skills, got me moving. Then Gordon helped me in between. The muscle memory started to build up. That wasn't the problem. It was more the confidence thing, Dan. That was I'd been used to being somebody's mom, and got out of being on a stage. And the first few times I got up on the stage, I thought, I'm never going to be able to do this again. I was so nervous. But I think Gordon took me to one side at one point and said, you know, you're mixing up adrenaline and fear. They feel very different. They feel very similar, but they're very different. So basically you think that you're frightened, so you're talking yourself into that you're frightened, but you know, it's just adrenaline. And if you don't get adrenaline, you're not going to put on a good performance. So you've just got to channel that adrenaline and recognize it is adrenaline and not fear, and you've got to drive that adrenaline into your performances. And that good talking to that I got from Gordon was a bit like handling somebody with kid gloves. Every time he would tell me, you know, do you fancy doing this? I'd say, oh, I don't think I can, and then next minute I'd be doing it. So it's a bit of patience and a bit of kid gloves, I think, handling somebody kid gloves and a bit of moulding. And I got there in the end, and of course I love it now. But it's a confidence thing. The muscle memory, I mean, you do lose that quite quickly, but it does come back quite quickly as well. I know when I've been on holiday, I sometimes come back and I feel like my fingers are flying all over the place and not going where I want them to. But I've now got a little fold up travel guitar that I take on holiday. It goes in a rucksack, and I practice all the time while I'm away. So I'm not a big sun worshipper. I've got very pale skin, so I disappear at 1 o'clock in the daytime and go and sit in the shade with the guitar for a while. And so I constantly practice. But yeah, it can go very quickly. It can get rusty very quickly if you don't practice. So it's an ongoing thing.
So for new guitarists starting out that might be watching this, kind of talk about your practice regimen a little bit. Are you working on specific things with like your finger picking or like dexterity exercises, or are you just kind of strumming and coming up with songs, or how does that work for you?
My songwriting is quite sort of at a standstill at the moment, and I think I'm very much like that. If I'm very sort of stressed out by the situation we're in, my brain tends to block off a little bit in situations like this, and in order to block out what's going on around me, my creative blocks off slightly as well. So I have written 2 songs while I've been in lockdown, but obviously I'm not being as creative as I could be. So I've mainly I've tried to polish up on my guitar work. I've been learning Dire Straits, Romeo and Juliet. I've been learning a lot of Joni Mitchell, and I tend to study other guitarists. I don't often do a lot of covers, but what I like to do is try and play something. I studied Lindsay Buckingham for a long while, taught myself to play Landslide and Never Going Back. And then somebody found out I could play it, so now they just asked me to play Landslide, which is quite funny. But I never expected to ever play that live. It's just guitar exercises for me. I got massively into Joni Mitchell. I like a lot of her open tunings. I mainly do work in open tunings, so more than standard. So I work in 4 or 5 different open tunings, and I do plain standard, but it tends to be more the open stuff that I like, and partial capoing. And I've picked a lot of this up from Gordon, but I've tried to keep my inspiration up by learning a few Joni Mitchell's. I've learnt River for this Christmas just gone, and I've done a few of her. I'm just learning Case of You, and it's just sort of studying musicians to keep the practice in, you know. So yeah, I did my first instrumental on the new album Entity. I've not done that before, and Gordon was encouraging me to do an instrumental. I think it's sort of like a tricky one when you're singing and you're playing as well. Sometimes people overlook the fact that you can play guitar. They're busy listening to your voice. So and that I guess if you're a guitarist, you will probably notice that I can play, but I think a lot of the time it goes over people's heads and they're just busy listening to a voice, you know. So it was nice to actually put the guitar down and actually play an instrumental. And I was a bit nervous at first to do that, but I'm glad I did it now. It was a good move, I think.
Awesome. So it sounds like Joni Mitchell has been a big influence on you. Who else would you say you're influenced by?
I've got to say, vocal wise, my hero, obviously I love Joni because I love her tunings and I love her voice and everything. From being very, very young, I fell in love with Ann Wilson from Heart. I love her vocal range. I like the fact she can sing really low. The range is so vast. I love the power in her voice. So I was listening to stuff like Dog and Butterfly when I was quite young. So, you know, when all that was out. So I did sort of get to chat with Roger Fisher. He's a good friend of Rob Taylor's, and I was trying to meet up with him at NAMM, but we kept missing each other. I kept getting texts and saying, "Where are you now?" And I kept going down there, and we kept missing each other. It's such chaos, NAMM. So I did manage to bump into Bobby Cochran, but I never managed to bump into Roger, and I was really disappointed about that. But yeah, I mean, I did say to him at one point, he mentioned about co-writing, and I'd love to do that. I think with Heart being like a band that I followed for a long, long while, that would be quite a big thing for me to do that, really.
Sure. Did you ever see them play live?
Never. I've seen a lot of the rock bands, but Heart I've never seen, and I've never seen Joni. Although Joni was at NAMM last year. She was there collecting Lifetime Achievement Award, and I heard that she was going to be in the building. I was so excited, but of course she got taken straight up to the VIP room, and the rest of us minions didn't get to see her. I wish I had had the chance to meet her, but of course she doesn't tour now, which is terribly sad, and I would love to have seen her live, and I never got the chance to do that. So yeah, no, I've not seen Ann Wilson live, and I've not seen Joni. I'm not doing very well, am I, Dan?
Well, hey, I haven't seen my all-time favorite band live either, and they're actually from the UK. So
oh yeah, who's that then?
That's Bush.
Oh, I don't know them.
Gavin Rossdale.
I've not seen them. Sorry?
Gavin Rossdale, is that name familiar to you?
No, I know.
Okay, they're from Shepherd's Bush in West London. So
I need to check them out, don't I?
they're grunge rock band they started getting popular in the early 90s.
Yeah, I will check that out. I'll check that out. I've not heard of them though, so.
Awesome. So what's the plan then for 2021 once kind of the whole pandemic's over and things have settled down a little bit?
I mean, I think my major plan is to try and relaunch the album. I mean, trying to launch an album with this going on is just so difficult, you know, and it was so disappointing. And I put so much work into it, and I sort of thought, you know, it would be all right, and I'd still be able to do it. But it's just not the same when you can't get out and you can't gig. You can't sell and you can't promote, and people will buy a lot more when they see you actually do it live. You know, and it's quite exciting. I mean, I did the first bit of the launch very sort of low key, to a very large, you know, sort of like large room, social distance, not many in because of the social distancing. But then the album came out on vinyl, and we wanted to launch it again on vinyl, and of course we didn't get around. That's been cancelled 3 times. But yeah, the vinyl, I've got both my albums. That's Seductive Sky, that's on vinyl, and that's the new one. You can't see it with the plastic, but yeah.
Awesome. And I will post a link to it for those of you watching this. I'll post a link to
CDs as well,
Carrie's website where you can pick up any of her albums if you want to, and also links to a couple of her songs on there. Carrie, let me see what I was gonna ask you about. I had a bunch of stuff written down. Here. Oh, what and I'm just talking like post when you started getting into music again. So kind of your most recent foray getting back into it. What are you most proud of so far?
My most what, sorry?
What are you most proud of so far that you've accomplished?
Most proud of? Oh gosh, I'm proud to be a vintage endorsee, that's for sure. I've managed to meet and gain like part of the vintage family. Dave Colwell from Bad Company, he's played on my albums, and of course Elliot and Gordon, and Rick Wakeman's son. He's not with vintage, but I got that through Gordon. Rick Wakeman's son, Oliver Wakeman's, played. So I've like had the advantage of meeting up with fantastic musicians. So I think being a vintage endorsee is one of the proudest things that I've done. I guess as well, I'm so lucky to have Gordon. A lot of guitarists would give the right arm to be that close to somebody that is such a genius on a guitar. So I'm proud of that.
And I've actually heard Gordon, I was doing some research on him. I have heard him compared to, like, people are essentially saying he's the British version of Phil Keaggy, if you're familiar with that name.
No, I'm not. I'm going to have to look all these people.
He's an acoustic guitarist from the US that's just amazing.
Oh, right. I will check that out.
I'll PM you a link to some of his stuff, but
yeah, sure. I love to hear guitar music. So yeah. I mean, yeah, it's always different. It's always a joy to when you come across somebody that you've not heard before. So yeah, please do that. I'd be interested.
Awesome. So for people that are digging into your music for the first time, what would you say your appeal is to them over other artists? Obviously for me, it's your voice. You're a heck of a guitar player too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very lyrical. So everything that I write about has definitely come from the heart, and it's come from either something that I've come across, somebody I've come across, or some situation that I've come across, and everything is sort of linked in here or in my mind. So if you talk to me for too long, you could end up in a song. I'm terrible for that. But so I'm not a person that I'm very lyrical, so I'm not a person that relies totally on beat and a couple of words, you know. My music needs to be listened to, word wise, you know, lyric wise. A lot of people that are into lyrics really like what I do. I guess this comes from me being very small and being a big lover of vinyl records. First thing I would do when I got a vinyl record, Dan, is get out the sleeve and read the lyrics from top to bottom. So I'm a lyrical gal, you know, that's what I like. I guess, yeah, my voice, people sort of say my voice is something I've always had. It's something that's always, I have my voice trained, so I've got quite a wide voice range, but it's always been something that's come very easy to me. Whereas my guitar skills, it's always been there, but I've had to really work at it to get to the standard that I'm at. So I think probably I take my voice a little bit for granted, and I shouldn't. but I guess it's just like when you can do something naturally and you don't, I mean, obviously I get sore throats like everybody else, but because I have my voice trained, I do tend to I can get bypass most things like that. But my guitar work I've had to really work at, so I'm sort of pretty pleased with myself that I managed to get to this standard with my guitaring. It's been hard work and I'm constantly at it, but yeah, I'm sort of pleased about that. So I guess I tried to sweep right across the board with my music. I don't like to fall into a genre. Somebody advertised me as country last week, and I've got absolutely nothing against country music, Western music. I love it. I love Dolly Parton.
Well, hopefully you don't mind me introducing you as like a folk singer songwriter.
No. Well, I get folk pop quite a bit, folk rock. And somebody put me up and they put the lyrics to Dolly Parton, and I had to sort of message her and say, oh my goodness, I'm not country. And she said, oh, White Kite sounded a little bit country. And I said, it possibly does, but that's typically me. I don't stick with one genre. I class myself as a songwriter, so it just depends what mood I'm in at the time I'm writing. You know, if I want to write something really meaningful, something like Entity will come out, or Sacred River, which I wrote about Canada. But obviously, if I'm just feeling a little bit mischievous, maybe something else will come out, you know. But I've written a song while I was in LA actually. I got on the flight at Manchester and was flying over to John F. Kennedy Airport, and a little girl kept stopping at my seat, Dan, and she was like looking at me, and I thought, why does she keep stopping and looking at me? She was so cute. She was about 18 months, 2 years old, probably 18 months, probably not as old as 2. And eventually I just said to she was with a grandma, and I said, oh, she's so pretty, what is she looking at? And her gran was like, oh gosh, I'm so sorry, I hope she's not bothering you. And she said, she's looking out the window because she's worked out that you're sat on the wing, and she thinks the Virgin Atlantic wing tipped up in the sky like that against the blue sky, she thinks it's a shark's fin. So she thinks it's a shark in the water. So she was trying to see out the window, and I just looked out of the window, and actually I've got to admit I could see a shark's fin as well. So
nice.
I think I maybe got the mind of a 2-year-old. And I turned to her and said, oh, I can see a shark too. And she whispered at me with these great big eyes with these brimming lashes. She said, Sharky, like that at me. And I said, yes, it is. And I said to her gran, what's her name? And she said, Winter, with a Y. And I thought that was so pretty. And gosh, I wished I'd asked more about who she was, because 2 nights later in LA, I sat up bolt right in bed, which is what I do every time. I mean, I'd be hopeless to write with, really, because I never think I'm going to write a song. I just go to sleep, and then I'll just sit up in the early hours of the morning, and out will come the pen, and it'll just all pour out. And I'm sure people think I'm pulling the leg, but Cyclotron Records were with me. Linda Bonner from Cyclotron Records, who did the vinyl, she was with me that night, and she stayed in the same hotel room, and I flicked the light on, and she flicked the light on. She said, are you writing? I said, yes. Yeah. What are you doing, Carrie? And I said, I'm writing a song about that little girl called Winter. And that was it. And then the song Winter was born, and we're trying to find Winter, because the deal with the vinyl was that it would go on the vinyl. By this time, I'd already finished all my recordings. So Entity was finished as an album, and so it's not on the CD. But the deal with the vinyl was, if they took it vinyl, they were going to take another track off and put Winter on there. So Winter at the minute is only on the vinyl, but we're trying to trace Winter to give her the vinyl, because not many of them were made, and I think there's about 20 left, and hers is number 4. So we'd like to give her that, but we can't find her anywhere. We don't know where she lives. I'm thinking she's from the west side of the UK. She got on at Manchester Airport, but she could quite easily have come from the other side, I guess, just because her gran had an English accent. I don't know whether her mum was American. I don't know. So I don't know. I'm still searching.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you find her at some point.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Now, talk to me about White Kite, because that's my other song that I really love off that record. What was that? Was that inspired by a white kite or something else?
White Kite is in this actual particular song in my head. White Kite is a promise. It's a promise. I think life is full of promises, and some of them happen and some of them don't. So it's a bit like words, not promises. We're on your big white kite. But the wind stopped blowing long ago. It means you know, sometimes you think that these things are going to happen and then they sort of blow over and they don't. And I guess it's about it's about music, it's about life, and life is like a bit like that. There's a high on every level, there's a down on every floor as well. I don't know about you, Dan, but I just often think I'm one of these people that when something's going really well, I think everything's too good to be true. I wait for that, you know. I think what's going to happen? This can't go on for much longer. You know, I'm getting too much good luck here. I think life balances itself out. So White Kite is basically, it's about the things that you can and can have, the things you can't have, the disappointments that you get sometimes. You know, but White Kite really is what you make it, and that's what I like to do with lyrics. A lot of people, I once wrote a track called Taken, which was on my second album, and there was a line in it, I lay down beside you and you run your fingers down my spine, and it's so easy to fall for you, I'm losing all track of time, or something like that it said. And I had one lady called Fiona who was like mesmerized by this song, and she was like, oh my god, this is so sensual, and I was laughing. I thought it was so funny because Taken was actually about my one of my best friends' ragdoll cats, very expensive cat that she lived up at an East Coast seaside village, and there was a public footpath running alongside her house, and the cat was sat on the doorstep, and it was a very big fluffy white thing with these bright blue eyes, and somebody coaxed it over to the fence and was trying to, and they picked it up and shoved it in the rucksack, and they took it, and it was missing for 2.5 weeks and found in Wales, which is right across the other side of the country, probably a good 300 miles away from where it was living. And so that song is actually about a cat, but a lot of people think it's quite a sensual nice song. So I've caught them all out, you see, Dan. It's what you want to make of something, isn't it?
Right. Awesome. Well, hey, Carrie, I don't have anything else for you. I appreciate you coming on with me. This has been really fun. I will put, and again, for people watching this, I will post a link to where you can find Carrie's music.
Thank
and
you.
Her Facebook page and all that in the description of the video. And then, Carrie, I will let you know when this goes live on YouTube. I have a couple other of these I filmed before yours that I haven't published yet. So might be a couple weeks, but I'll keep you posted.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you ever so much for the invite. It's been great chatting with you.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank you for joining me. Have a good one.